Hi there, you are watching The World Talent, and I'm glad today that I am going to talk about a great new topic and subject of inspiration that is interested everyone, no matter where or how or where, who you are or where you are. So with me, a great expert today, Shalonda William. Shalonda William, thank you so much to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So I see that you have combined it all what we need. You have done it.
Wow.
So an author, a certified coach, and awarded inspirational speaker. We don't need more than this in this world today. How you
Oh.
were able to succeed in this great inspirational journey, please.
Well, I just simply love what it is that I do, right? And so I think I've kind of been that person all my life, and then later on, I find that there was an actual name for it all, right? So you have your life coach. That's really just the person that listened to all your issues when you were young and gave you some advice, right? And and I was writing in my journals and writing in my notebooks all my life. And so, for me to be an author is not surprising really to anybody. And then you have the award-winning speaking. So I guess I had the gift of gab, and
Great.
people actually listen. So just been that all my life, and then found a name for it later.
But how you came from nowhere, a world of difficulties and trouble, and you overcome all of this to be a witness, inspirational leader and speaker. Those difficulties, how you were able to overcome all of this. So what were your techniques, your tip that you'd like to share with the world today so others can emulate your great example, please?
Well, you really can't leave out the spiritual part of me either, right? So I'm also an ordained minister and prophet. So you can't leave that part out. I mean, I've been doing church all my life, but having an encounter and a relationship with the Father, that's been my saving grace. Not just the spookiness of it all, but the actual relationship where, with the parent, you have that conversation. They train you, they give you insight. When you're going through hard trouble, they sit you down and they say, well, this is how you're going to make it through that. This is what you do. Well, it's the same thing in my spiritual relationship. You know what I mean? I've been learning tools and things to help me get past things for a very long time. And so I take those things and then I help to apply it to what I do as a coach and what I do as an author and what I do as a speaker, because I've been inspired. Right, I was inspired to, let go of the promiscuity and let go of the crazy mindsets, the low self-esteem, the all the things that I lived through before. I learned how to forgive people, right, so that I wouldn't be in bondage. I learned how to take my mask off, even if it felt uncomfortable. Even if I had to rip it and there was pain underneath, you have to learn how to rip it off, take it off, whatever, and then just endure the healing process so that you can get to a place of just being completely whole. Now, does that mean that I don't go through things now? Absolutely not. But I have the tools now that it's a little bit different and I can make it through it a little bit quicker this time than I could have when I was in my early 20s or my teenage years, where I felt lost and I felt like I had nothing and I felt like nobody understood, right? Now you apply those principles to your life. You remember the principles that if I want something, I have to sow what I want. I give what I want as opposed to what people do to me. Because if I treat people the way people treat me, then I'm never going to be right. It's always going to be a cycle effect. So you learn the principles, you live them, and you overcome. But you
Okay.
can't do it if you're not willing to put in the work to do it.
Okay, so what are those principles and what are those tools? Let's remove the mask. Okay, and I've seen this is great wisdom to share. For example, when you remove the mask and you touch that painful button, what's there to reveal and what are the tools and the principle there that we should use to overcome all of this painful experience?
So I've been doing unmasking coaching for a lot of years, right? And that's where you just really dig deep to beneath the surface. And one of the things that you have to do when it comes to removing your mask is you have to come in being willing to be honest. Denial is not going to help. Denial will not help, and lies will not help. One thing that's the most dangerous, silly thing, is when you come and you pay for a session with me, and then you come in just to tell me the same lies you've been telling yourself for the past 20 years, right? How can we get to the surface of it if we're still going to be selling the same story, selling the same lie? So one of the first things that you must do is make a decision to be honest and to not live in a place of denial, right? And people may think that's really lightweight and that it's like, oh well, everybody knows that, but obviously not. Because here's the truth: some people have worn a mask for so long that it becomes a permanent part of themselves, and they don't really know the lie from the truth.
But we need
So
the mask. We need the mask, at least psychologically speaking, for covering ourselves and for protecting ourselves. So we cannot be that fragile and reveal it all unless we are really trusting you and your world. And maybe that's your solution where it's come in.
well, that's the thing. Who chooses to live a phony life? We can say that, oh, you need to wear the mask to protect yourself. But again, I live based off of spiritual principles, and the spiritual principle says, guard your heart with all diligence, not wear a mask to pretend like you're somebody else. And that's the difference. So when you're guarding your heart, then that means you use wisdom and discernment to know who I let into this space and who I don't, right? What I give of myself and what I don't. But when you wear a mask of unforgiveness forever and say, oh, I'm just a strong woman or I'm just a strong man, that's not true. So if I tell you, if a person says, oh, I'm real, I'm 100% real, I'm all that, right? And then I come in and I say, well, beneath all that, you're really a big hearted person that's just afraid to get hurt. Then they want to be defensive, right? Because they say I'm 100% real, but the truth is, it's not real to wear a mask. Now, protection is one thing, and again, you don't protect your face or you don't protect, make yourself a phony person. You protect your heart, and that comes with deciding who can come into this space with me and who can't. Right? If you've had things happen to you over your lifetime, if you've been molested, if you've been raped, if you've been bullied in the different situations, of course, now you use wisdom as to whether to let certain people into your space. But do I show up as the phony person? I've always been a big-hearted person, right? I'm gonna tell you this. Here's my example. I've been a big-hearted person all my life, and then I was bullied in school, and then I went through broken relationships, right? I went through all these different things. Now, your first instinct is to become real hard and to put this mask on and say, I don't need nobody, and I don't trust nobody, and I don't want to be bothered and all this. But my truth is that my heart never changed. I'm just afraid of getting hurt, right? And so I had to determine, and for a long time, especially teenage years, I was the mean girl. I tried to be mean, but it was hard because I'm so forgiving. Now, the truth is, I'm forgiving. I have a big heart. I don't want to be hurt. That's the truth. So what do you do with that? I didn't stop showing up later on after I got my healing and all that. I didn't stop showing up with a big heart, but I do let you know my boundaries. I do let you know my standards. I do let you know what I'm willing to accept and what I'm not willing to accept. So there is a difference in protecting your heart and pretending to be somebody you're not so that people won't hurt you. Does that make sense?
Definitely, definitely. I cannot agree more. Thank you so much for bringing that to the table under the discussion. And then I'm taking notes. Thank you so much. Okay, when you say how to protect your heart, and which one is the stronger to protect us? Is it the mind or is it the heart? Which one is stronger and better for our protection, please?
So, the mind and the soul, they're synonymous, right? So we're three-part beings. We're spirit, we're soul, we're body. And so your body, your heart, would be a part of like your spirit. So that's the most fragile thing. That's why it tells us to guard that, because that's the most fragile thing. And so the soul, however, is what we think with and what we choose with and what we feel with. So that's the tool we use to protect the heart. But what you put in your mind, what you put in your soul is everything. So if I feed my soul a bunch of nonsense, because one of the older ladies told me, girl, you don't need no man, you'll be all right by yourself. And that's what I practice in my mind, right? that's what I practice in my soul, then my heart becomes hard towards men. Does that make sense? So what I do with my soul, what I do with my mind, it is the tool to protect my heart, but I have to feed it the positives of it and not the negatives. I have to feed it the truth and not the lie. If I continue to feed it the lie of, you got to, you just be hard, you strong enough, you can handle this, then that's going to mess my life up. Because then when I want to be loved, I won't accept it. Right? When I want to be in a solid relationship, I'll reject it because my heart has been programmed based on what my mind thinks. So your mind is the tool, your soul is the tool, but your heart is the most fragile part. Right? So the heart is going to always lead the way. You're going to want to dive into that venture that you've been hearing about. And it's like, yes, I'm going to take this by the horns and I'm going to jump in and I'm going to make all this money. Right? But your mind says, be wise in all of your dealings. Make sure that you don't just jump into something because it sounds good, because hurt can be on the other side of that. So then with your mind, you begin to think through every situation. You begin to think through, you know what, that sounds good, but in the long run, I may be hurt because these people don't really care about me. They only care about their bottom line, right? So your mind is the tool. Your soul is the tool. Your heart is fragile. So you use this to protect this.
Okay, shall we say that the soul is the tool for our protection in that conclusion?
And I guess yeah, pretty much. I mean, of course, the spirit is involved as well, but that just depends on where you are in your journey. And the deepest part of you is your spirit. So that's your major protection. But even with that, your soul has to be the one to follow that path. Does that make sense? It has to be the one to follow the principles and decide that there's a higher me. And I don't have to settle for the surface stuff. So yes, your soul is a tool. I remember when they used to say that people sold their soul, right, to the devil. We've heard it before, right?
Yeah, great.
What does that mean exactly? Some people think, oh, well, that means I'm just, I'm selling my spirit. No, you sold your soul, meaning that you decided to take in all the information from the enemy or the inner me that was negative, that was hurtful, that was, I don't care. Right? And so now you have to begin to change that part of you so that every other part of you will be able to function in the best way possible.
Okay, I see that you it seems like you conclude all of this in terms of spirituality that is taking higher and higher. That's a great and wise saying and even doing, but the majority of people saying that in the age of science, in the age of information, spirituality is not that leading anymore. Could be maybe even replaced by science,
I
pure
love it.
science.
I love it. Let me tell you why I love this so much, because when you begin to establish a spiritual relationship, you realize that all of that stuff falls right underneath that. It's higher. So it is that. Science is nothing but the study of a thing, right? So what are you studying? The thing that the spiritual thing gave you. So you can't just separate the two. People want to separate the two because they want to make sense of things. They want to make sense of why this didn't work and why that doesn't work and why this miracle didn't happen. Oh, y'all say miraculous things, but why didn't that happen, right? They want to try to justify and explain it, but it's not separate. Science is not separate from God, because not in my case, and I'll say this much, I don't force anybody to believe anything they don't want to believe, because forced faith ain't faith. Right? You can't force faith. However, I experience it every day. We can try to explain germination with science, but even when you get to the end of your explanation in science, it had to start somewhere, right? There's a start to everything. So you could be scientific, and in the age of information, you can study all you want to, but the truth is none of us were there from the very beginning, right? To be able to say that this is exactly how it happened. Think about this. When you read a science book, there are some things that are concrete because they went through all the studies to be able to study it, right? But then when you think about other things, everybody has a philosophy. Nothing is solid, right? So it had to be something, and it had to start somewhere. How can you describe the mountains? You can describe the process, but you can't describe how the process happened. You can't really describe how the sky is separate from the ground and how it's separate from the air and where gravity came from. You can try, but there's a beginning to all of that. So it's not a separation between science and spirituality. We just trying to always figure everything out. That's why we have 1,000,001 opinions about how it all began.
I,
So you don't separate the two.
I,
You just fall
I
into.
I like that. You say no separation of truth, and truth is one, regardless of how you perceive it. Okay, that's great. And I like the word or the saying that you said. It's like a wise when you wise one when you say nothing is solid. I like that too. And even science, when it comes to spirituality and the nature of the spirit, it has no word there, no explanation because it's not material and it goes beyond the material and the physical and natural world that is and everything that is scientific topic in nature. It goes beyond the scientific topic because there's nothing there to experience, nothing there to take to the lab when it comes to spirit and spirituality. So this is a very great, exciting topic that can take hours and hours. So let me make the best use of your time to talk about your book. Very provocating title when you say, I'm not okay. And then you talk about this mask, why you are not okay and how we can be okay.
Right. And so it's no,
No,
three
yeah, we're
W's.
starting with big no to or three no's together. Wow. No, I'm
No.
not okay.
Yeah.
What a title is that?
I do emphasize the three W's because, truthfully, most of the time, it's not a simple no. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like heavy, heavy stuff. And when you're trying to make it seem like it's so little and small, no, I'm not okay today, right? It doesn't do justice to how you really feel on the inside. So you have to give them three W's. Don't forget them because I am in such a, people will be in such a crazy place that they're close to suicide. Does a simple no justify or speak to the real pain? It doesn't. So when you say no, when you say I'm just not good, absolutely not. I need something. I need more than just this that you're trying to give me, or the little pat on the back, or the hug or something. I need you to see the depth of what I'm dealing with. So when we talk about mask, and I was saying earlier that there's a difference between protecting yourself or being phony and protecting your heart. Well, the mask comes to make you a different individual. The mask comes to say, this is what I'm doing now, or I'm no longer the person that you can use anymore. But the sad part about that and the hard part about that is that when you put that on instead of allowing your healing to happen, now you become the broken person that may do the same thing to another person. Right? The things that you complained happened to you, the hurt that happened to you, you now become that person if you're wearing this mask, right? And so now I'm not okay is simply a way of saying I'm tapping out for a minute, and is that okay with you? Because I need counseling, or I need to talk to somebody to help me get through this thing. The title, and we talked about my role as a minister. The title struck from the place that a lot of the preachers and ministers and pastors and stuff were committing suicide because it was so tough, because they live in a world where people don't want you to say I'm not okay. They want you to fake it till you make it. They want you to speak things out of your mouth that are not true in the moment. And so they didn't know how to come and tell the congregation, I need to take 6 months because I need to go here and get healed. Right? I need to go here. I need to just totally take everything off and lay naked and unashamed and allow the principles to work for me, because I haven't been doing it. I've been going and going and going. I've been losing sleep. I'm sitting by my pills every night, or I'm sitting by my gun, or I'm sitting by this car that I want to get in and just drive off a cliff. This is how I'm really feeling. So no, I'm not okay, but can I tell you that? Can I share that with you, and you take it for what it is, and you assist me in how I need to be assisted? When I wrote this book, this was all my truth. This was the stuff that I went through from 6 years old until adulthood, and I had to share it because I've already overcome it. But yet I had to share it with people to let them know that masks are real. And this is what we pretend to be and pretend to do all the time. And so again, I have to use my tools. And my tools included spirituality, because there's something you can feel and experience, even if you can't explain it, right? And I had to use that because that's what worked for me. And so other people may go to counseling, they may get medicines, they may, take their family on a retreat for 3 weeks, and I'm not talking to nobody and my phone is off because I need to be able to detox. But the question is, can I say I'm not okay and you accept it for what it is?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, right now, the question is how to be okay despite all this revealed pain, and what are the big no that you have to tell yourself and to tell to your world to be okay in the search and the quest of being okay.
So when you're talking about revealed pain, the revealed pain is a part of the process. You can't have one without the other. And so here's another thing. I talked about denial and I talked about lying. Well, rationalization is not going to help either. You know what I mean? While people are saying, well, after I take the mask off and I'm all exposed, what's supposed to happen next? You take time for you and you go through the process of the healing. If you go into surgery right now and you get cut wide open, right? You got to go through a process of healing. I don't care how bad it hurts. So you use medicine to ease the pain for a while, right? You got to get it cleaned out. You have to make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to make sure this thing heals properly. So, I don't pity the person that says, oh, but this is going to hurt. We already know it's going to hurt. It's been hurting you for years. That's the point. The point is that you literally been hurting for years, and now that you have to take the mask off, you're attributing that to more hurt. No, you're already hurt. You're already broken. You're already sad. You're already depressed. You're already rejecting everything that could be positive in your life because you're already hurt. So now let's seal the wound. So you do have to get counseling. Sometimes you got to go through counseling for months or years to be able to get to the root of what it is, right? And then you have to begin to apply the things to the soul that we talked about. Change the way you think. Now, everybody has a different way of saying it. In certain sectors, they may say, you got to change your mind in order to be better. You got to affirm your way to the top. In the scriptures, it says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. How do you renew something? By changing what you thought before and changing it to something different, right? So if there is a process, but are you willing to go through the process? And a part of it is going to be very uncomfortable, because when I'm coaching, which is counseling, when I'm coaching you, you're going to have to be able to cry sometimes in the process of that. Are you ready for it? So there's no rationalization that you can do with this. You got to just take it for what it is, and you got to go through the process of it all.
Okay, I understand that even exposing is a part of the process.
Yes.
But despite the fact that it's healing, it's hurting, how it will help for the healing too.
So that's what I'm saying. You are already hurt. If
Yeah,
it's time
I
to
understand right
unmask,
now how to switch from the hurting process, hurting period, into the healing process. Yes.
so that's what we've covered, right? So counseling,
Yes.
right? Counseling is a part of it. That's where you first begin, and you come into that honestly. You say, this is what it is that I'm trying to do. I'm not going to lie about it anymore, right? Because you're already hurting. Now I'm going to expose the hurt. That's the thing. I'm not exposing just the pain. I'm exposing the hurt of the pain, right? So in counseling, you do that. As a coach, I may not be able to prescribe you medicine, but I may have to suggest that you go and get some. So while we're going through the process of opening up about the stuff that's been hurting you for years, you're going to have to, okay, so I'm doing an 8-week unmasking course right now. In that, they have to journal. Okay, so while you're journaling, I may tell you, journal everything that you're feeling right now. Don't stop until you're done. That could be 4 pages, that could be 5 pages, that could be 10 pages, and you may be crying through it. I mean, you may be starting through it. You may want to quit, but you cannot quit through the process. So counseling, journaling, being transparent and open, taking meds if necessary. If you are depressed, sometimes you need something to settle you so that your mind can actually think about what it needs to do to switch. Affirmations. So when you're renewing your mind, if all you ever thought was negative, now we need to change your negative thoughts to a positive thought. Everybody in the world is corrupt. That's a thought that comes when you're broken, right? But is that the truth? It's not the truth that everybody in the world is corrupt. It's the truth that the person who hurt you might have been broken themselves. Hurt people hurt people. You heard that before, right? So they might have been broken and hurt, and so they hurt you. So now you have to decide, am I willing to live, or do I want to just continue to live with that thing that I thought was true? Is it true that everybody is a molester? No. But in your mind, everybody, I'm not trusting nobody. All these jokers out here is a molester. Not true. What's the truth? Right? And so this is the process. The process is literally like a reframing of the mind, you know, from everybody's gonna hurt me to no, not everybody. So I have to be cautious about who I let in, but I have to remember that there's somebody in the world that actually loves me.
Great.
Somebody, out of billions of people.
Great. Thank you so much for all citing all of this, the necessity of counseling, even sometimes the necessity of taking even medication when you are depressed, and the long program that you are developing, the 8 weeks, and the journaling, which is the most difficult one. Journaling, when you say journaling, write even about your feeling when you are painful and even when you are crying. Literally, I'm not inspired to write. I'm in pain. I'm already exhausted, and you give me extra exercises. And
Right.
then, especially that you want them to be transparent and to tell nothing but the truth, like we say in the court. So that's another extra exercise.
Right.
Okay, let me come to this, conclude this part with this final great conclusion that you said, renewing the mind positively. That is taking me to the last chapter here. For example, you are an inspirational leader and speaker. And when you say how to renew the mind positively and go beyond all this negativity of our past, no matter how painful it was, to think of it as past and start a new chapter of our life to make the rest of our life the best ever.
Here's the thing, right? The past is exactly that. But what happens is that we bring the past into our present and we live as if the past is still happening. Does that make sense? So I got hurt when I was 10, but every day I rehearse that same thing in my mind. I rehearse what happened when I was 10. But today I'm in a fulfilling relationship. I have children. I have work that fulfills me, but I can't fully enjoy any of it because I'm still living as a 10-year-old, rehearsing what they did to me. So my inspiration for people in this position, and it is so difficult. I don't want to even sound like I'm being inconsiderate, because I'm not. I really, living through it is tough. Taking that thought from when you're 10 years old, when you heard that cousin tell the other cousin to do those things to you, right? You can literally keep playing that over and over, or you can change what you're thinking. But in order for you to do that, you have to replay a different message, right? So one of the things I encourage, even in journaling, you said it, boy, journaling can be real tough because now you got to be honest with you. And that's hard, right? But when you're journaling, begin to journal the truth of your story now. You heard me say that earlier. What's the truth, right? So the truth is that I'm in a great relationship with a person who supports me. I have children who look up to me, and I have a career that's very fulfilling. Play that over every day. Play that over 2 and 3 times a day. When that thought from when you're 10 years old comes up again, and here's a tip for the married women and men. Instead of thinking about that incident where they hurt you, now think about the last awesome night of making love that you and your husband or your wife had, right? And replace it with the pleasure thought. Because if you don't replace it, you're going to continue to play the same track over and over again. So now I just need to change my track, and fill my track with the truth of what's happening in my present. Even make a vision board for what you want for your future. Record it on an audio and play it every day, right? Of the difference between what happened in your past and what's happening right now. But it takes work and it takes intentionality. You have to be intentional in switching your thoughts. Absolutely. You can't continue to rehearse the same thing and expect to be healed.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Apart from this process of playing your blessing and not rehearsing your past pain, what could be extra tools and principle and tips and techniques to inspire this younger generation, which is almost losing it all?
They are, because, and I don't want to call them weak in a sense, but mentally, everything is an influence. We are living in the world of information where you can go in and tap into anything. You can be trying to watch everything positive or hear everything positive, and then you click on Facebook or YouTube and you see somebody being beat up in the street, right? So that also is a key. So while you're changing your mental dialogue, which is the very most important thing, do you hear what I'm saying? It's not lightweight. So I can give you a million techniques and tools, but until you get that one, then you're going to continue to go through the same cycle. But you also have to change what you take in. So if you know that you have lived in the streets all your life, that's what you know to be true, and you're trying to get better from that place, why do you keep playing the same movies and the same music and the same conversations with people who grew up in the street with you? Where's the liberation in that? Where does the freedom come from? Because everything you did, we just talked about reprogramming your mind, right? Changing your track. If you're changing your track, but yet you're still associating with all the same things from before, how do you get free? So you also have to change what you hear, what you see, what you take in. It may be temporary. You may be able to go and watch another gangster movie in about 5 years, but right now you can't because you keep replaying how you saw your parent killed, right? So why do you continue to play the same things over and over? Yes, and things are this real. People are unmasking from things like that, right? So why continue to play the same movies that encourage what you're trying to reverse? So while you're changing your track, you also need to change what you hear and what you see and what you take in.
Okay, I see. For example, generally speaking, we say, for example, the great wisdom of Gandhi says, if you want to change the world, you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of this saying about this. We have to change within first. Unless we change within, then we have to change the inner world to influence the external world. Right now, based on what I've understand from your mental dialogue technique, that even we have to change the world around us too. So we have to change outside the world to influence the inside, or vice versa, or both together to get this positive mental dialogue.
No, I think everything that I've spoken of is about changing your inner self, right? Your inner dialogue. When I say, change what you take in, that's still your decision. Does that make sense? So you can't, and that's the key, is that you can't change that stuff, right? You can't change the mental capacity or the mental illnesses or the things that other people do. That's their choice. You now have to choose. That's the inner thing. You know what I mean? You have to choose that I no longer want the same dialogue. You have to choose that I want to be better, so I'm not going to play the same movies over and over. You have to choose that I want to, really live in the present now and maximize the great things. That's an inner thing. You know what I mean? That's why self-dialogue is so important. Because if you begin to tell yourself that all is well, not fake it, okay? So here's the mask. The mask fakes it. The mask says all is well when everything inside is jacked up. But you change that. You literally make things well by what you start feeding yourself now and what you start talking to yourself about now. So it's really all inner work. I'm not responsible for anybody but Shalonda. You know what I mean? I'm responsible for how I react. I'm responsible for how I let it affect my life. And as much as this generation wants to point fingers and blame everything and blame everybody and this didn't work and that didn't work, you have to go within yourself. How did you respond when they said what they said? Did you snap? Did you go off? Did you start punching people in the face? That's your behavior. And you have to be responsible for it. You can say it's everybody else's fault, but the reality is that we're all flawed creatures that have gone through some experience that caused us to be where we are now. What's your decision for your inner decision? Does that make
Great.
sense?
Yeah. So right now, okay, I would like to conclude this with your last recommendation, like quick recommendation, for example, how we change our mind positively and how to change our behavior collaboratively for a better world that is better for all of us. In terms of quick recommendation, 1, 2, 2, please.
1, 2, 2. Okay. So, one, be honest with yourself and with others around you. Number two, don't think that you're going to get anywhere if you include denial in your situation. And number three, begin to change your inner dialogue. Until you do that, you're going to be stuck on replay of the past, and you're never going to be able to live presently in the future.
Thank you so much, Shalonda, for all of this. A brilliant, excellent interview today from my show, World Talent. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your leadership, and your inspirational speeches. Until we meet you again, hopefully in coming editions, in your books, in your speeches, wishing you all the best you wish for
Thank you
yourself.
so much. Many blessings.